Welcome to the No Ideas original podcast featuring Shannon, Rob, and Ken. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Good, brother.
Good. You know what?
Next
Next Monday, everybody, we need you to stream the No Ideas original podcast debut project, the curation, available on all streaming platforms. And if you haven't already, make sure you stream Big Facts, No Ideas original, featuring Donnie Midnight, produced by Gritty Tracks, a real banger.
super banging.
A real banger. I told you I've been getting a lot of good feedback about that track.
As you should, man. That track is a dope track, man. And we paired the right two together with Donnie and Gritty, man. So that came out pretty dope.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. Yo, so tonight we're fortunate enough to have a pioneer, a trailblazer, big time contributor to West Coast hip hop, Mr. Michael Khalfani, aka Disco Daddy.
Daddy.
How you guys doing?
First to a lot in terms of hip hop history in the West Coast. We good. How are you?
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Matt. Yeah, I'll meet you. I'm at doing a radio interview. Oh, okay. Give me about half an hour. All right. Sorry, you guys. Got a lot going on.
No problem.
Listen, he's a busy man, bro. He's a busy
man. You currently in California?
Yeah, L.A.
Are you in LA and you dress like that? What's the temperature in LA?
No, this morning, believe me.
Oh,
wow.
Be in LA early in the morning, you be dressed just like this, you know.
Like you in New York, right?
About this time, it starts getting a little warm, you know what I'm saying? But I got the sunroof open.
Okay. All right. So you're originally from New York, though. What took you to California? How'd you find yourself going into the service? Because I read somewhere that you were in the Air Force.
Air Force veteran, yeah, Vietnam veteran. Basically, the draft was on. They were drafting brothers, everybody, but only the Army and Marines were drafting. The Navy and the Air Force, elite services, they don't draft. You have to still pass the intelligence tests. Right. So I turned 18. My draft number was coming up, and just like everybody else at the time, friends cool in the gang, they just became Muslims. Because the Air Force during the Vietnam era or no branch of the service would accept black Muslims. That was one way to get around being drafted and getting into going into the military. So a lot of entertainers during that period, and I'm not saying their beliefs are false or anything like that, but a lot of people who were draft age in the late 60s and whatever, when brothers, especially when they found out that was a way to get out without getting in trouble or going to prison, after Muhammad Ali, they did not want Muslims. You see, Muhammad saved us because they tried to draft him. And y'all are young, you don't remember that period, but he lost his boxing titles.
That's right.
Everything he had fought for in 1967, and they stripped him and convicted him of not wanting to serve his country. And he had applied for conscientious objector status, which did not work for a black man, obviously, because they still wanted him to go in. It was one way to put down this rising, he was the biggest symbol besides Malcolm X of the power going on, the power struggle going on between us and the system.
Right.
And once the Supreme Court said he could, you could not be forced to join the military if you have conscious objections to killing or murder or whatever it is. He set the stage for brothers, anybody after 1967, any black man, all you had to do was say, I'm a black Muslim, even if you weren't, that you were a follower of Elijah Muhammad. And it didn't matter. You see what I'm saying? It mattered if you were just a Muslim, and not a follower of Elijah Muhammad, you could still get into the military.
Yeah.
They made a distinction. Okay, what I'm saying? If you were a black Muslim, they didn't want you. You see what I'm saying? Because they didn't want the ideology to be spread among blacks in the military. You see what I'm saying? There are a lot of blacks who come from the South, the country areas, don't know nothing about what was going on in big cities except what they might have watched on the news. But they were right mentally for Muslim teachings because all blacks were suffering during that period. So they didn't want us in the military. I hate to get off that point, but that's a historical point I have to mention. So I went in basically not to get drafted. And I went down to join the Navy. Because, first of all, when you're drafted, you go straight to the front lines. You had brothers coming back with no legs, no arms
Yeah.
into
Wow.
the community. And who wants that? So, and then you hear the story. So I went down, the Navy office was closed, Air Force office was open across the street. So you have to take the test. I said, I'll take it right now. My mom was with me. I sat down and passed the Air Force entrance exam right there. And they said, well, you can leave in 2 weeks. And that's how I ended up into in the United States Air Force, June 1969.
Wow.
Coming out here, I got out the Air Force. I went through a racial thing. I did 2 years out of 4 years, supposed to do 4. But I got involved in racist stuff, which would be in my book, Whatever Happened to Disco Daddy. So I was discharged honorably, but I wanted to come out to California. I had seen all these postcards of the girls and the beaches and the palm trees and everything. I said, I got to get out there. Never could get stationed. I put in for the Western region. It's a dream sheet that you fill out when you finish basic, which you dream of where you want to go in the world. Hawaii, Thailand, whatever. And you may or may not get what you put on your dream sheet.
Right.
So I put the Western region, and I got that, but I was sent to Montana, which is also the Western region. Great Falls, Montana.
Damn, bro.
We used to drive across the border to Canada. Those girls up there love black soldiers. Okay, Kyle, it was the first time I met white people who were not white, if you can understand what I'm saying. First time being out of the country, I guess it would be the same if you went to France or England or something like that. They view us differently, and the vibes are different than they are between blacks and American whites. I was going through a department store. We had through 5 of us, we had our uniforms on, and white girl. I love all girls, no matter what color. But in this particular case, a white girl. She said, "Oh, you guys from the United States? Oh, we hear so much about the struggle that you guys are going on. Here's my phone number. Call me tonight, and I'll have some girls. How many of y'all want to? I'll have folks, some girls just like that. Don't know us from it, but we're black, and we just accepted. So every 2 weeks, I was in Calgary, Alberta province.
Messed around and went AWOL, right?
Yeah. But that's how I got out here.
Well, that's something, man. Because to think, back then, coming out of the service, then in the 70s, and when you gave me a little history note about Ali, it made me think of John Edgar Hoover saying there'll never be the rise of a black messiah. And for that reason, why they was doing that, and why they didn't want no black people in the service, because they didn't want nobody to spread their knowledge.
Okay.
But taking you going to the service, you ended up in California. What led you into hip hop?
Well, actually, I went home. I got discharged. I went back home. When you've been in the military, you travel around. Even a place like New York seems small all of a sudden and crowded. Right. So I just said to myself, hip hop hadn't been. I got out in the '70s. So hip hop hadn't been invented yet, and it was not even the park jams at that time when I left. But I came out here simply because I was trained as an actor, a theater actor, and they were producing all those black cult films, Shaft, and Martin Comes to Harlem, all those cult films. So I left and I came out here, but I lived in San Francisco for a year. It was a beautiful city, but nothing happened. And I was working at Jack in the Box. So I had friends who were actors who lived in LA, and I said, I got to come down there. So in '73, I came down here, and I was staying with a friend of mine, Lincoln Kilpatrick, and his son and I, Eric Kilpatrick, grew up together. But Lincoln Kilpatrick was the first black co-star with Charleston Heston of Soylent Green, and what was the other? Not Planet of the Apes. It was Soylent Green, and there was another one. But Lincoln Kilpatrick was a black sidekick, which was the first in the movies. Bill Cosby was the first on TV. Okay, black sidekick to a white lead.
Right.
But Lincoln Kilpatrick, I stayed with them, and I was over at my cousin's house. Her name is Sheila, and a girlfriend of hers, Thelma Davis Martin, came over to the house, 1973. Said, "Hey, we dance on Soul Train." I'm sleeping on the floor. "We dance on Soul Train. You want to come with us?"
Nice.
So I got up and I got in first as a guest, and I was loving the vibes. I think the OJs were performing that night. You know, you right next to them, they come and sit and talk to you in between breaks and stuff. But 2 weeks later, I'm at the Proud Bird restaurant in Inglewood, and Pam Brown and Dick Griffey, who were talent coordinators for the show, used to go out to parties and clubs. And that's how they found a lot of the dancers who ended up in the original 70s Soul Train gang. There was no auditions. You either got in as a guest or you were picked by Pam Brown. And that's how I became a member officially of the Soul Train gang. Okay, 1973. Sabadoo, Rerun, all those cats, they had just formed the Lockers. And they were leaving. Yeah, they were leaving the show. So I barely saw them. They would just come back and do guest appearances. They were doing shows all over the world. And that started my career off. In fact, the day that I've been in California 6 months, and the day I got on Soul Train, I said, God is showing me this is the place I'm supposed to be. And it was like a sign. It was a sign, and I was walking down the yellow brick road. Could never imagine, still, there was no hip hop. I mean, it was just beginning 73 when I'm on Soul Train when Kool Herc did his thing. I was one of the stars on the West Coast of the longest running show in the history of television.
Nice.
Soul Train. So that West Coast hip hop basically starts there, as far as I'm concerned, because once I did that, and I auditioned. Well, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. In 73, I did that. From 73 to 74, I was very busy. Quincy Jones had started a workshop in 74 called the Quincy Jones Workshop. That's a story that has to be told yet. It was for singers and musicians. The Brothers Johnsons came out of that. And some of the other background singers that Quincy used on his albums during that period from 74 to 78. Okay, so that's a story we based at Inner City Cultural Center. I did a radio program on WPLO called Who Cares? Black Americans, Blacks in Media. I forget the name, the slogan that they use.
Okay.
But I did a midnight program called Who Cares, where I interviewed celebrities from Betty Wright to Squirrel, from Dramatics to Eddie Kendricks at the Total Experience nightclub. In fact, after I did my first interview with Eddie Kendricks and the manager of the club was there, the owner actually, Mr. Simmons, who started Total Experience Records, Gap Band, and all those cats later on. First, he owned a nightclub, okay, and he watched me do the interview. He said, you can come back every week and do interview, whoever was there. And that's how I started interviewing. I interviewed David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks and got this full story of why they left Motown and everything, which never made the news at that time. So I got certain privy information because they opened up the fact that now they was individual artists, solo artists, they could do interviews and talk about themselves.
So you was in the mix. You was in the mix of everything at that time.
Yeah, at the beginning, yes, I was. And I was getting records from all the record companies and stuff like that. That came later. Right. But 76, while I was doing all that kind of stuff, I was driving past a club called a Showcase on Crenshaw and had a sign outside saying DJ wanted. I had never did that in a club, but I was majoring in radio and television broadcasting at City College, LACC, which at the time was the college to go to for radio and television broadcasting. Nice. Okay. So I was used to the equipment. They had advanced equipment there. And this cat, Gene Hardy, owned the club. He had bought all this stuff. I just didn't know how to turn the receiver on. I could deal with the turntables, but I didn't know how to turn this shit on. So it was the beginning of my career. I auditioned for him, and Frankie Crocker, who I grew up with watching, listening to not WBLS. Before that, there was the WWRL, the big RL in New York, which is AM. That's where Frankie got famous. Okay, good evening, New York. This is the show to put more dips in your hips, more cut in your stride, more cut in your stride, more glide in your stride. And if you don't dig it, you know you got a hole in your soul. Okay, Frankie Crocker. So my image of a DJ, Jocko, all of New York cats did rhymes. They didn't rap, but they all had rhymes that they had, identified, it's Jocko, and they opened their shows with. So my image of a DJ was just naturally to make up some rhymes. So I made up some rhymes. Welcome to the showcase. This is DJ Mike. I'm glad to see your face in the place. Stuff like that. And then the cat said, I like you. You're different. He said, what you going to call yourself? I said, well, my lady was pregnant at the time. I said, well, this is my first job in the disco, and I'm about to have my first baby. I'm going to call myself Disco Daddy. That was April 1976. And Disco Daddy was at the Showcase nightclub in Los Angeles on Crenshaw Boulevard. I made it the #1 spot, and the security guards that worked there, their owner of the security guard company, looked at the success that I made it the #1. It was, well, again, in LA, they had teenage nightclubs when I moved here. Yeah, 21 and under, 18 actually and under. No drinks. We had sodas, hot dogs, popcorn. We had full bars in the back, couches, another room in the back, all this kind of stuff, which for teenagers, black teenagers, there's never seen nothing like this. And then they had a hell of a DJ. Excuse me. But anyway, I made it #1, and the security guard owner of the company decided he wanted to open up a club, and so he bought a building on 91st and Western. And me and the guy who owned the Showcase, which I made #1, this is 1977, a year after we opened, we were having problems because he wanted me to play more Donna Summer and more Bee Gees and stuff like that. And I was a black DJ.
That was that disco vibe.
Right, exactly. So Donna Summers and all. Every now and then I would break out, but I was funking them to death. I could mix James Brown into Parliament Funkadelic and into Confunction, and you'd think it was one record. That's the way it was. Funk disco DJs did it back then. You see what I'm saying? Mixing wasn't just a thing of 130 beats per minute like the white boys up in Hollywood, and you can mix Donna Summer into the Bee Gees and all of that. Like I say, I mixed James Brown, Confunction, and whatever else was funky, and you would think it was one long ass record. So that's what Disco Daddy, between the little rhymes, and then people would come and say, hey, make a rhyme for Scorpio or make a rhyme for Libra. So I did little short rhymes.
You know what?
Which distinguished me as that type of DJ. And in fact, when the guy hired me, he said, well, you can start next week. I'm at the Showcase one weekend, which is the #1 club, and I'm going into an unknown with a new owner. He's going to pay me $100 a night, though, which is $50 more than I was getting at the other club, which is 1977 is some good money just for the weekend. So I was taking a chance. But I did the switch. The guy said, I'm going to spend money. I'm going to start advertising on you. I want you to go up and do the commercials. Just write the commercial yourself. Right. So the first rap Los Angeles ever heard was Disco Daddy at the workshop on the radio, actually. Hello out there. Disco Daddy here, reminding you that every Friday and Saturday, you'll be taking a mighty soulful ride on that funky workshop camel. His name is Clyde. Now, Clyde has only one mission in life, and that's to make sure that you get to Soulville before sunrise. So come on, brother. I know you stepping strong, and you, sister, put your red dress on. If you're looking for some action and your feet ain't flat, said the Workshop Disco, babies, where it's at. That's the Workshop Disco, 91st Street and Western Avenue in LA, 1977.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So 2 years after that, Sugar Hill. Well, first of all, I made that club the Workshop #1, and 6 months later, the Showcase closed.
Oh, wow.
That was the first instance in the 70s of club owners and people, basically, because the DJ business wasn't a real big business mobile yet. But that was the first time people found out that if you are a popular DJ, wherever you go, your people can follow.
Right? Yeah. You know what? Let me ask you this about the DJ stuff. So I was thinking, because I do remember a time where the DJs were basically the MCs. You know, they did all the talking.
Exactly. They were
the original MCs. Yeah.
Do you think the advent of the MC per se is what changed or hindered the evolution of DJs as MCs? Because after a while, DJs put the mics down and it be just behind the scenes mixing and stuff like that, and it then became predominantly about somebody out on the forefront performing.
It was a very interesting evolution, and you have to, as far as hip hop is concerned, and the model that we have with the DJs and the MCs and all that, you have to go back to DJ Hollywood in New York.
That's my dude. I like Hollywood.
Okay, when I interviewed Raheem before he got not Raheem, Kid Creole, before he got did the last interview with him before he got arrested. The last radio, I got that. And he told me, he said, when Grandmaster Flash, when we started, he said, we took everything that we did on stage from DJ Holly. So the DJ with the rapping and with the mixing and turntables, DJ Hollywood did all that himself.
Yeah.
But the way it was set up, it was rapping over music.
Right.
Basically. Now Kool Herc had MCs. They rapped over the break beats.
Yeah.
It's a difference. You see what I'm saying? And they didn't really rap the way we look at rapping. You see what we consider rapping. Again, in the early days, from what they told me, they were doing nursery rhymes. Stylized versions of Mary Had a Little Lamb.
No basic stuff. Yes, sir.
Yeah, stuff like that. And the first person to actually sit down and write an original rap, y'all know who that is? Let me ask y'all.
Chaz, right?
No.
Grandmaster Chaz? No.
Cope?
Melly Mel.
Melly Mel?
Message?
Melly Mel was the first man to sit down and write a rap. Right. His brother was with him. Okay, Raheem, Kid Creole was with him, and everybody is verified. He sat down one day and wrote lines out, and that changed the game. You see what I'm saying? Because then other people started. This is before records. Okay, right. This is the period before records again. I've read all of this because I've interviewed DJ Hollywood. I've interviewed Gigolo Rap. I interviewed everybody that I'm telling you because I wanted to know. This was back in 2016, 2017. Hip Hop You Don't Stop, the radio program I had. And my first show, I had MC Shyrock, first female MC, DJ Hollywood.
They just celebrated Shyrock's day in Gun Hill Projects the other day.
Right, the other day. All right, so I had never heard of her until 2013.
I
had never heard of Kool Herc until 2010.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? This is how far the West Coast, we didn't always have the internet. Okay, you might have heard names and stuff like that before me to have any knowledge the way you guys have it of who Kirk is and who MC Shyrock is. Never made it to the West Coast. So my radio show really opened my eyes to what was going on. And even that there was a period, because remember, I left in 70. So in 73, the period before records began, I missed all of that. So I knew nothing about those DJs. I knew nothing about what was going on. Every now and then we would get a record in the record pool. This is the new Spoonie G. Who's he?
I love rap.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? No pictures, no media thing to let you know who he was or everything like that. The same with me when we got the Grandmaster Flash thing. Okay, that's a group. But again, before 1982, there were no videos. MTV came along. So a lot of history that changed the game that allowed these groups to be seen for the first time instead of just heard. So me and Captain Rapp, when we made our record, it was 81. We missed MTV by a year because MTV made stars out of mediocre rappers because they were so hungry for content that if you had a video, you know what I'm saying? They didn't even have HD or anything. But if you had a video, you got on MTV. And then especially once they started seeing the reaction from hip hop.
Yeah.
TV was the first to have those hip hop shows.
That's what made Blondie, Pat Benatar. All of them made them videos that made them blow up in the 80s.
They blew up. You see what I'm saying? Because now they had an audience who had heard the records on the radio but never seen them. So I missed that period. But what happened was when Melly Mel wrote the first rap, the game became a thing of trying to out rap. That's where the battles start happening and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Because people were writing, actually. There are no battles before written raps, although hip-hop existed, and they were rappers. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't until there were enough rappers who were writing original stuff and people responding and coming out to hear this group and these rappers, the style and everything was taken from DJ Hollywood to 2 turntables.
The biggest battle back then, I think, was a lot of like Cold Crush and all them. They had routines.
Yeah.
that they would
It was
do
the whole
all the time.
production. Yeah.
They had a whole routine together. That
I
was
interviewed
their battle.
Grandmaster Cash. The thing was, they never made a record to actually, because nobody knew this shit was gonna blow up like this. First of all,
That's a fact.
even some of the people involved thought, well, this is something we can cash in on because we've been doing it. Now they're making records, but they've been having park jams and the MC set up, so it was easy to transition to making records. But the very fact of now his money and contracts, that was another game changer. You see what I'm saying? Because he wasn't no longer doing it for fun. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to get a recording contract, and there was a lot of shit that went down, stabbing in the back and all of that, because behind the money starting to come in, and then the people with the money bags only wanting certain types of rappers to sign. Another game changer, because before the message, everything was about shake your booty, party down, or I'm the flyest, I'm the baddest, all the sucker MCs, that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying? The ego tripping type of stuff. Once the message came out and it became clear that this music can be used for more than just shake your booty, party down, then the whole thing intensified, because it became a way to convey and speak to the system and effects it was having on Black people and people of color, period. Okay, what I'm saying? And what our life was like, what our existence was like. People never heard that. And again,
soundtrack to the street.
Yeah, what makes it sort of incredible is that now we accept all of that and don't really, because you had to be there to understand how revolutionary a song like that was. But and I get past myself. When Rapper's Delight came out, I was a DJ at the workshop, and I got one of the promo copies, and I said, "Damn, I can do this." You know what I'm saying? Just like that, Light came on. I quit both my jobs. I was a DJ in California called Big Ben's. I interviewed Phyllis Hyman, Ray Parker Jr., Rufus, all these big stars at the record store. And we have, in-store things. I'd interview them, sitting down at the table, they'd sign autographs and stuff. So I got to meet a lot of A&R people who was offered jobs in promotion, A&R, and all the record company. Turned all that shit down because I was loving being a DJ, number one, in LA. And so when that record came out, I quit my jobs and I called Andre at the Carolina West, which I would later beat Ice-T. But I called him. This is 79. I said, I'm rapping, man. Let me come through and do something. I called Dr. D up at the Speakeasy, which was a celebrity club owned by James Brown, who just died. I mean, Jim Brown, who just died. And I said, so let me come through. So all my DJ friends who were in the record pool with me, let me come to the club. And I was turning the clubs out. People had never seen a rapper. Okay, they had never seen a rapper on the West Coast. This was a whole new ball game. So every club I went to, I turned it out. Okay, and they just let me. Sometimes the club owners would give me $50 or whatever, and I'd rap for a few minutes. But I built a name up now as a DJ. Now Disco Daddy is rapping, so all the DJs knew I was rapping, and they was loving it. But as far as cutting the record and hoping to get a record deal, the other thing that was happening is that if you weren't from New York back in those days, you weren't getting any airplay. Period. Not even on your own turf.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I had that albatross hanging at that time. Yeah. Right. I had that albatross hanging around my neck. But again, I get ahead of myself. But I was rapping in all these different clubs. And then KGFJ in 1981, I did that for 2 years, from 79 to 81. And KGFJ announced that they were going to have the first rap battle at the Carolina West. And
you say KTMJ?
KGFJ AM radio, KGFJ 1230. It was the station. People in Los Angeles grew up with KGFJ.
And this
then
is before 1580 K-Day?
Greg Mack and K-Day came along a few years later. But in the meantime, from the 50s on up, the KGFJ was the only station for Black people in this country, in LA. So anyway, they were giving the first rap battle. Told me, I'm gonna go down and win $50 because I've been winning rap battles all over, and I went down there, and this guy got in the contest. We beat everybody. It's just me and him. He called himself Trey. So he beat me the first week. And after all the shit I've been telling y'all I went through, I was devastated. I was devastated. And he told me later on that he was hanging out in the club and just heard it announced, where I had heard it on the radio and came down to the club, but he was already there hanging out. And his friend said, "Why don't you get up and do a little something?" And so the girls screamed for him. He looked like Prince back in the day. Okay. And I mean, I ain't gonna take nothing away from his rap, but neither one of us, basically were really prepared. But anyway, Curtis Blow was the judge that night.
All right.
But things happen along my life to show me that I'm walking on the yellow brick road. This was one of them. Curtis Blow, who I admired, was the judge. And he was an anomaly at the time. Because in the early days of hip hop, groups ruled. Groups. All New York groups.
First solo record deal, right?
Female. You see what I'm saying? For someone to emerge as a solo rapper was an anomaly at that time. Yeah. But for me, who had tried to put together a group and couldn't find no other rappers, I said, damn, I could be like Curtis Blow, who I went and saw in 1980 when Uncle Jam's Army brought him out here. And I said, yeah, I could just go solo like that. So he was the one who, I mean, we're friends now, but he was the one who set the stage for me to emerge as a solo rapper on the West Coast. And the next week of the contest, well, the contest was an experiment. KGFJ wanted to know, they're getting calls to play a lot of this rap music, and they still stuck in R&B and funk. Okay, so they were experimenting to see if anybody would come out for two basically unknown rappers who nobody had ever seen one battling each other, and nobody had ever seen a rap battle. Okay, and the club wanted to know if their DJ, Andre, should play more hip hop or stay with what he was doing, and if, since they were a club that served drinks 21 and over, if any people 21 and over who drink will come out to a club to see the same thing. It's not a teenage club, a teenage thing. The club was packed. Wow. It was so packed that when I lost, the owners of the club said, "Hey, let's do this again next week." So what was supposed to be a 2-week battle, a 1-week battle, one night, turned into a 2-week. The next week I came back and I went back to my DJ days, which I hadn't done in a long time. And I had wrote lines because I told you I was already doing rhymes. If the party's over here and the party's over there, everybody in the house say, hell yeah. Now you might think you've heard that somewhere else. I wrote that. Okay. And it spread, but I put that one line because neither one of us had any audience participation lines in our rap. Again, we were doing, I'm the flyest, I'm the baddest, blah, blah, that. So at the end of my rap, I said, if the party's over here and the party's over there, everybody in the house say, hell yeah. And the club exploded. The roof almost came off the sucker. Okay. And I knew right then, because later, that I had something, mixing the DJ thing with the MC and the audience participation lines. Again, all of this sounds ordinary now, but at those times, these are revolutionary events. Anyway, I come up out there, but I won the second week. Ray Goodman and Brown and the Fatback Band were the judges that week. I won, and this guy stepped up and he said, "My name is Duffy Hooks. It's my father, and we started the first rap label in LA. And I was here last week. I wanted to see who was going to win. We think you're pretty good. We'd like to sign you as the first rap artist in Rappers Rap Disco." Okay. Wow. So again, history just being made. Well, and when you're walking through it, you don't really. I can look back down. You see what I'm saying? It's the first rap label. I really wasn't even hearing what he was saying because I have been doing this for 2 years for this moment.
Yeah. Did Ice-T, have you spoken to Ice-T since, and did Ice-T acknowledge that he put that law?
Go Hard. It hasn't been released yet.
Oh,
okay. Nice. Other OG, the true story of West Coast hip hop. That's how I heard his side of the story. Okay. And so we signed, and we were going to go into the studio and record. I did a solo version, which is on YouTube, Disco Daddy video and interview, which is the first rap video, West Coast rap video, and the first West Coast rap record solo. So I was going to do, when we were recording the record, I said, if it's successful, I'm going to do what the East Coast people are starting to do it. I'm going to have auditions and find some rappers to produce myself. On the West Coast. Okay, so I went to do Magic Johnson's 22nd birthday party at the Variety Arts Center
Yeah,
downtown.
again. Say that one more time.
Wow.
That's is what?
Yeah, Magic Johnson,
20.
22. And he rolled in with Michael Johnson. They rolled together. Back then, neither one of them was married. And they didn't have no bodyguards wherever they went. And why we gonna fuck with them? The old Negroes. So they strolled in. I'm going to tell this story before I tell you I met Captain Rapp, my partner, because I met him there. But Magic came in with Michael, and he had a big glass bowl. And he set the bowl on a table. And this is his official party. He's all on the radio. And again, there's no security, nothing like that, like it would be now. People came in, but women started lining up from Magic's table all the way out the door downstairs. They came. They were all dressed to the nines. And each one would step up to Magic, say a few words, and put their name on this little note thing he had and put it in the glass bowl. Okay, at the end of the night, I did a rap.
You laughing.
This is how Magic, 1981. August.
Oh, wow.
August,
Hey, Mike, 1 second, man. I don't mean to cut you off. When you talk about 22-year-old Magic Johnson, I'm thinking like that's when it all started, huh? Right then and there.
I'm telling you about. That's what I'm gonna get to. He at the end of the night, I did a rap called Shaking and Baking because when he was coming down the floor, that's what we used to call it, Magic Showtime, Shaking and Baking. So he liked it, and he grabbed the bowl, and they tipped. But then I was wondering, now how are we gonna remember what amber looks like out of 150 different pieces of paper, unless you put a star? You know how the brothers, I would call this one. See what I'm saying, like that. But he left. But then 10 years later, when I hear him on TV saying he had AIDS, I knew it wasn't because he was gay. I knew how Magic rolled. You see what I'm saying? How all of them rolled. This was 81. This was when he did this. This was when AIDS was just being recognized.
I got you.
You see what I'm saying? So he had 10 years from 81 to 91 to live that lifestyle, and it crept up on him. 92, bless that brother, because whatever they giving him, it worked. You see what I'm saying? Because it killed everybody else off. And I remember him crying. I never thought something like this would happen to me. And that's one of the moments I broke down myself. Because he was the biggest star in the universe at the time. And he got in the end of his career. And something like that brought him down. But then I remembered that incident 10 years before. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, I always throw that story in. But anyway, this guy stepped up to me after the show and he said, "Wow, man, that was dope." He said, "I rap a little bit." I said, "Yeah, what's your name?" He said, "Larry Glenn." I said, "Well, I'm having auditions at my house." You got to excuse me. It's dust blowing in this window, and if I close it up, I get hot. Anyway, he said, I said, "Come to my house. I'm having an audition next week, and I want to produce some rappers." He came. The brother was so dope that I called Duffy, and I said, "Duffy, I want to change this from Disco Daddy to Disco Daddy." And I asked dude, I said, "What you going to call yourself?" He said, "Well, I was around a lot of captains. I was in the Air Force." I said, "I'm an Air Force veteran too." He said, "Well, I'm going to call myself Captain Rapp." Thought of his name right there in my living room. Okay, so I said, "I want to change it to from Disco Daddy, and Captain Rapp." And Duffy tripped. He says, "You sure about this, Disco? We signed you." I said, "Man, when you hear this, brother, you'll understand." Plus, I was going through a thing where when you write a rap, it's not like a song. You got to memorize that sucker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And everything else. And if you're writing 2 or 3 of them, you got a memory thing to go through. You know what I'm saying? Which if you're performing live constantly, is no problem. I realized, first of all, 2 things. I'm from a theater background. That 2 bad motherfuckers on stage can work the stage. You know what I'm saying? Work this and work that and do crossovers. You know what I'm saying? Ladies like this guy, ladies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can work an audience much better. You know what I'm saying? It takes the weight off you because he got to write his half of the song. Okay? So it solved 2 immediate problems. And my ego wasn't such that I got to be the star. I don't want nobody else to share. You see what I'm saying? I'm thinking this is 3 years before there was a Run DMC. Or any duo rappers that I knew of that had a record out. It's Captain Disco Daddy and Captain Rapp were the first hip hop duo, East Coast or West, to make it to the radio. Now they had duos and trios and stuff back east, but not on the radio. Some of them just did park jams. Some of them were famous for that. You see what I'm saying? But as far as recording artists, until Run DMC came on, there was no duo that I know of that existed in hip hop. So that gave us that distinction right there. The first time people seeing two guys on the stage working a thing. Even Grandmaster Flash and Herc, they had 3 to 4 MCs.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It's much different, and they were MCs as part of the unit with the DJs.
Now,
They weren't a standalone recording group.
Let me ask you this: when did you write Zodiac Rhymes? And the reason why I'm asking, right? The reason why I'm asking, because I listened to that, right? And I heard "To the windows, to the walls."
That was stolen from me by Lil Jon.
Yo,
I wrote that song in 1981.
I heard that.
I wrote that in 1981. He was a little boy, but he was a DJ, and he had access to records. You see what I'm saying? I use that line in not only Zodiac Rhymes, but if you listen to the duo version of Gigolo Rap, that's how me and Captain Rapp, to the windows, to the walls, to the sweat roll down your jaw, to the windows. And then in Zodiac Rhymes, I use it for one of the Zodiac, because each Zodiac sound had something to say. I say, all the Scorpios in the house, if you're ready to rock, and then let it out. Blah, 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 to the window, to the walls, to the sweat roll down your jaw. So Little John, which I can probably still sue him, he took those lines
and Mr. Mike, let me tell you something. That's exactly where I was going. I was like, hold on. This came out in decades ago.
Yeah,
Here it is. Lil Jon is going across the world.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So I had influence in hip hop way before I was even credited with things like that. So, and then not only that, it's like this, y'all, and like that. I said it's getting too hot to kick back. That's in my Gigolo Rap. Like this, y'all, like that. Said it's getting hot to kick back. 10 years later, here come a guy named Snoop Dogg. It's like this and like that and like this and it's like this and like that and like this and okay. So you have to, and Captain Rapp is from Long Beach, the same place Snoop is from. My partner's from Long Beach. So later, after our record, Captain Rapp in '83, we broke up the group because our master was sold to a slime ball who didn't want to pay us. And so we broke the group up, and Captain Rapp moved to Colorado, but Cletus Anderson, who owned a VIP record chain, he brought him back out here. Rich Kason had died, and he had this track. He said, I got a track I want you to do something with. So he brought Captain Rapp out here. I had gave up the music business. I started the LA Breakers and was on a whole nother trip, appearing with stars like Johnny Carson, Dick Clark, and stuff like that, supporting.
The official Breakers from McDonald's too, right?
Yeah, well, LA Breakers became the official breakdance group for McDonald's, Adidas, K-Day, 1580 K-Day, and the LA Lakers halftime. Okay, so that was after the recording career. But Joey Jefferson was the guy's name. And so I recorded one song with him because I'm thinking, shit, if I have a hit record, I can get away from this cat. Back then, we couldn't afford entertainment attorneys. See what I'm saying? So you were at the mercy of people who had your master. So I recorded Zodiac Rhymes and forgot about it until 2012 when I saw it on the internet.
On YouTube. See it on YouTube?
On YouTube. And it's the first and only song that hits because there have been Zodiac songs, but none like mine, because I have something for I rap about each sign, and at the end of each rap, they have something that they say, a party chant that they do, which is different. See what I'm saying? It could be a hit today. You see what I'm saying? Because I wrote it thinking everybody got a Zodiac song. I had to come up with something that was universal, that would cross over. You see what I'm saying? So Zodiac Rhymes was perfect, but it's just that the slime ball recorded it, and I didn't want to have nothing else to do with it. So
who's the slime ball? Who's the slime ball?
His name is Joey Jefferson. He owned Jazz City Records at the time. From Florence, okay? And he had a blues label. See what I'm saying? The hip hop was so new, and Duffy was a good friend, and he did start the label, first label, and got me out there. But he didn't have any money to print records up. If Cletus Anderson hadn't come in, who owned VIP record chains, and saved him, he saved West Coast hip hop. We had a record out, the first West Coast record on the air, and people was going to the record shops and couldn't find it because it wasn't there. Yeah, that was a hell of a situation to be in. You see what I'm saying? The first West Coast rap group, and nobody can buy your record. So Cletus went in and gave Duffy money to do that, and eventually that problem was solved. But going in the studio, I said there's an albatross around my neck because they're not going to play our record anywhere because we're from the West Coast. They don't even play West Coast rappers on the West Coast. So, you know what I mean? When I brought my record to KGFJ, I luckily had some, that's Disco Daddy. I recorded a commercial that I did for y'all, just for the workshop disco. I recorded that at KGFJ. They knew Disco Daddy. And then when I was rapping, I beat Ice-T at the Carolina West. That was produced by KGFJ.
Okay.
So here I am showing up with a record a month later after beating Ice. Well, oh yeah, I got to keep it. The guy called himself Trey. Okay. A year later, after he'd been out there for a while, he changed his name from Trey to Ice-T. So I didn't Ice-T by name. I beat Trey, the guy he was before he changed his name.
Ice Trey, Ice-T.
Ice-T. Ice-T. That was the beginning. That night he won with Curtis Blow, the judge, he will tell you, was the beginning of his career. The night he won Disco Daddy. Okay, at the Carolina West. It's on his Art of Rap video. But anyway,
I'm sorry. I was going to ask you, how important is it to be first? Because you have a lot of first under your belt. But I kind of feel like a lot of times when you first, you got to be the person who take the bumps and bruises, right? Because
a lot of haters come out. You know what I'm saying? Well, you can record a record, but they ain't gonna play it. You're from the West Coast. That was the albatross. What I'm telling you. So when I went to KGFJ, I went in, and 2 days later, Tyrone Boogie Nelson, he called me at home, and he said, "Mike, turn your radio on." I can never tell you what that feels like. Only a few people, many recording artists in the world, only a few of them really experience that first time when you turn on the radio and hundreds of thousands of people are hearing your song. Okay? All those 2 years and stuff that I invested in myself, quitting my job, but lady thought I was crazy, to get to focus on this rap thing paid off. You see what I'm saying? Which goes back to my Soul Train days. That first day I was on the show, God telling me you in the right place.
The right time.
You see what I'm saying? So everything unfolded from there. And including the LA Breakers, which was, again, after I broke up the group. A year later, I was in depression for a year, but then I watched the news in '83, and the New York City Breakers were dancing for President Ronald Reagan at the White House. At the White House. So I turned to my lady, I said, "Damn, there ain't no LA Breakers." She said, "Oh God, here we go again."
You gonna make it happen.
Yeah, but I went up to Hollywood, and they had a spot on Hollywood and Vine, which they still dance out there on the street. And I told them I'm starting a group called the LA Breakers. It's going to be the first organized group. So they brought people. I got a dance studio from a friend of mine named Al Fan, who was my drama instructor in New York. He had moved out here. He had a studio in Hollywood, and he had a dance studio. So I was able to audition dancers at a dance studio, and everything was legit. Then I spent all night just before Christmas, 83, calling Converse, Nike, Puma, Adidas. Only Adidas called back. Angelo Anastasio, who used to play with the Rangers, played with Pele, the legend. He was on that team. He became an Adidas representative in his later career. And he came down to Inner City Cultural Center, saw all these multicultural. I had Filipinos, Black, Chinese, Mexican, whatever you want, white breakdancers. He said, "Tell you guys they're the official breakdance company for Adidas." And they had an Adidas store in Century City, and we would go up there and get fresh shoes and jackets and a high-end shit for free whenever we wanted to. Okay? We did Jerry Lewis Telethon, Lou Ross Telethon. We were doing big TV shows, and Adidas, the Adidas rep said, "When you do these shows, you got to have on fresh new stuff. You guys get some of guys had 20 pairs of sneakers."
Sponsor, baby.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So basically, that happened because of the bad situation I got in with Joey Jefferson in Jazz City. The LA Breakers actually blew up bigger because, again, wherever we appeared, nobody had seen the break dancers.
Did Joey Jefferson ever make it right with y'all though?
No, he's a slime ball to this day. I hope he's yeah, he's a slime ball to this day. And Captain Rapp had taken a pistol.
Oh,
Shoot the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? In his office, but then he just thought better of it. We had got to such a point where, we both had worked hard, and he knew how pissed off I was because he knew the background of I told him how long I've been doing this to try to get a record deal. Here it comes. And the first thing we associate with, well, the second, because Duffy needed money to keep his record company stable. So he sold the master while we were on the air because it had more value naturally while we were on the air. Then the other part of that, I had signed the contract, but Captain Rapp said I'm not gonna sign with him. And it turned out Captain Rapp was right because a week later, Jay Lasker, who had become the president of Motown, called me and Captain Rapp up to Motown. We were going to be Motown's first rap group.
Wow.
History. A lot of people won't remember that except Captain Rapp.
Wow.
The day is dead. But he looked at the contract that I brought up to him because I know that record companies can buy out contracts if they, you know what I'm saying, if they feel you're worth it. But they had given me permission, me and Duffy permission, a year earlier to use Rick James' song. And I had been picking up records from Motown from the promo people for years, so they knew Disco Daddy. You see what I'm saying? I was not like a stranger coming in. So when they gave me the right to use the track, they had no rap group and they weren't interested, but they had watched Sylvia Robinson rise with her record company with this new rap thing. So I know at some point they said, well, what do we got to lose if we give them the track? This record had only been out 6 months. It's rare you get permission to use an artist record. It's the hottest record, the hottest artist in the business at that moment was Rick James. They give me permission to use Rick. Give it to me, baby.
Give it to me, baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Stone City Music, which was Rick James and Joe Bett Publishing, gave us the rights, but I had to give up my writer's credits. If you look on the label under Gigolo Rap, it says Rick James.
Oh.
Didn't write a note. You see what I'm saying? But in order to get the deal, I had to give up my credit. So he gets the writer's royalties for my record. Okay. But again, it's the price you have to pay. And I did it legally. This is before sampling was even illegal.
Right.
We're doing it anyway. You see what I'm saying? I told Duffy, I know I'm going to do this legally and everything. And over in the corner of the label, you see it says a Disco Daddy concept over on the left hand side. I had them put that in there so that when I saw Rick James was going to get the writer's credits, that I had to let people know that this is something Disco Daddy. You know what I mean? Whether I ever became famous or not, that this was my record. Okay, so they put that on there, and we went ahead and the rest was history. But there were a lot of things that happened for that to happen. And Captain Rapp, when he came back, when they brought him back, he was the first artist with Bad Times to go Billboard, West Coast, 29, 26 Billboard. And, Bad Times, these are for real. Bad Times is what you and I feel. It was the West Coast message. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting story because Cletus had brought him out here and they were in the studio getting ready to record. And this wasn't, Rick's track wasn't right. So he went out to take a break. And this lady came out and she was talking to him. She said, I managed two guys, Jimmy Jam, and the other one's name is Terry Lewis. Prince. They weren't famous. They weren't known at all by anybody but Prince and his bandmates. And he said they just left Prince. He had fired them actually, and they need some work. So he went back in and talked to Cletus, and Cletus bought him some food and gave him I don't know how much it was. It wasn't a whole lot, but they went in and started, dum, dum, dum. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis. The first production that they did when they left Prince was Captain Rapp, Bad Times.
Wow.
Okay, and then after him, they did Cheryl Lynn. What you find now?
To be
All right,
real.
to be real. Yeah. Right. That was
Flight Time. They formed Flight Time, right?
Huh?
They
Flight
formed
Time, but they hadn't had that then at the time. They were just Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis doing independent studio work because Prince had fired them.
Yeah.
They made it made up and everything, but they had to do something to make some money.
Yeah.
So Captain Rapp got lucky. They just happened to be at the same studio. See how certain things. See, this is goes back to my. I don't know if anybody believe in God. Anything. Here I am. Little fine thing. Anyway, the, I've lost my train of thought. I was talking about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Captain Rapp basically got lucky that day, and my belief, this is what I was leading to. If you don't believe in a God, that there are certain things that are predetermined.
Facts.
At the time you are conceived. It can't be predetermined before you conceive because you're not a soul yet. But from the time you conceive, your destiny, and you can change it. I mean, you can step out in front of a truck and change your whole destiny. Whatever, you see what I'm saying? Whatever it's meant for you to be. But your destiny, as far as I'm concerned, because there's too many things, like you just hear me saying, that lead from one to another. You understand? Because it's not just happening. I be in the right place at the right time. Everything led to something else, as if this path had been laid out already. I just had to walk it.
Yeah. Well,
you see what I'm saying? I could have changed it any time. I could not have gone to the rap contest with Ice-T. That wouldn't be a historical record. I might not be standing here because Duffy wouldn't have stepped up out the audience and offered me a record deal.
Right.
Yeah,
I was just going down there to win $50. They didn't say nothing about no recording contract or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, see what I'm saying? So this was meant to happen.
Yeah.
It was meant for me to battle Ice-T before he was Ice-T. And we both trip off that. You see what I'm saying? Because it happened. And both of us are we from the East Coast. He's from Newark. I'm from New York, from Harlem. And we both end up out here with prominent places to do stuff. In fact, if he had beat me the second week, he'd have got the recording contract. He'd have got the first West Coast rap. With all the great things that he's done, he would also be the first. Well, a lot of people up until they started seeing me on the internet thought Ice-T was the beginning of West Coast hip hop. You see what I'm saying?
You got to think about yourself. You got to think about yourself. You're the perfect example of what the journey is. Right? Where what's saying people talk about is not necessarily the end; it's the journey and the route that you take to get there. That's a perfect example. So you like a legend and a pioneer in hip hop. You went from doing music to doing dance to DJing. So you covered all phases of hip hop or something. What would you have to say to somebody else that's trying to do the same? Because, like you said, it came to you naturally and you transitioned through. What would you have to say to somebody else that's trying to
stay on your grind? Stay on your grind. All the things that I was doing in the early days was to get $50, winning contests or whatever. You see, but my raps was getting tight. Each show that I did, you know what I'm saying? I learned something. I learned how to manipulate the audience. Again, this is new. There's no book. This is how you do it when you're rapping on stage and how you excite the audience, how to use the microphone. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm seeing.
Right. It just comes from being on stage and staying on your grind. Believe in yourself is the first most important thing I would tell you. Believe in yourself. There are people who are not born with talents, who are just born with hate. And they look at you and say, you ain't no different from me. So what, you can do this? So what, you can do that? But that's where all their energy goes. Your energy should be on, what's the next slide in this damn song? You know,
right.
Strong. You know what I'm saying? What can make my show better? You know what I'm saying? Should I add some female background? Your mind should be all in that. I had to put the record together in the studio because Gigolo Rap, when we went to record it, none of the musicians had ever recorded a rap record. Okay, so they were telling me, you can't do this. You can't. The engineer was saying, it's too crowded. It's too busy. Because I had party people. If you listen to the duo version, I got party people in the back. I learned from that night, the Carolina West party people. People want to say and have a part of the record and sing the lines or the background, whatever it is, you know, or the hook. You know what I'm saying? So I had party people because first of all, I'm a DJ and I want my records to sound like I'm a DJ at a club rapping. Okay, so I was coming from that perspective. But you got to believe in yourself first. But when I would be recording the record, I told the engineer, I want this to sound like this. I want these people, I want you to bring up the party people after I said, it's too busy, it's too crowded. But that's rap. And it was just so new that once it was finished and they heard the product, first of all, it's too long. Then we'll make a part 1 and put part 2 on the backside. Okay, what's so difficult? You know what I'm saying? That's what they were doing with the disco records. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
It was.
So there were certain things and decisions I made in the studio, which when you hear the record and you see it, is a result of everything. Captain Rapp can write and rap his ass off, but he told me, I've never been a DJ. I've never been on stage before, man. I'm nervous as hell. You know, at one time we do it our first show, and we had lines in there where we say party, party. So he said party. And he said, see, they ain't saying nothing. And he said that on stage into the microphone. And I had to snatch the microphone and say, Cap, nobody knows that you're making a mistake or whatever. Nobody knows that, you know, you're affected by what's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing was that rap was so new at one period that people, when we did shows, did not know whether to dance or whether they're supposed to stand there and watch you.
It was still brand new.
Right. So there was a mixture going on the floor. So some people heard them say party, and it was just still a thing where in New York, where they used to, you would have probably got an instant response party. In LA, they didn't know what they were supposed to respond. Oh, you see what I'm saying? It was a whole thing, adjustment that had to be made during that first year that our record was out on the West Coast. First time them seeing the rappers, first time them hearing the type of rap stuff where you got to participate. But when they found out what they had to do and say, they loved it, which is part of what makes people love hip hop, even in the beginning, that the crowd can take part of it. Whether you're a B-girl or a B-boy dancing, or you just singing the lyrics and going along with, you know, can't touch this.
Well, what's next for Disco Daddy? What's next for Disco Daddy?
I don't know. I got to tell you this, too. Disco Daddy, because of the Motown thing and getting the rights to do, was the first hip-hop artist to ever get permission to use material from the Motown catalog. It was not MC Hammer. You can't touch this. In fact, he used Rick James too. But you understand what I'm saying?
Give it to me, baby, right?
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Give it to me, baby, right? But he wasn't the first. So the thing had been set already where he could go in because Motown knew by then that hey, he will make money either way. We'll make money licensing the use of the track. You see what I'm saying? Even though MC Hammer was not a Motown artist, selling 1 million records, they're going to get a big chunk of that. You see what I'm saying? So there were certain near misses, almost becoming Motown's first rap group. The future now, I'm doing quite a few different things. With the Soul Train Gang, we formed ourselves into a socially conscious socially conscious entertainment entity where we back candidates, which has gotten me into the political structure, helped Karen Bass get elected as mayor.
Nice.
A big party for her, a Soul Train party, and I have video of Karen Bass down with the Soul Train gang. Get down like a soul sister with the Soul Train gang. 3 days before she was elected, it made all the news. Okay, I created the Shine Award, the Soul Train Gang and Dancers Shine Award, which we give to people, mostly powerful people, because only powerful people in politics make change. You can fill out petitions, you can ballot, you can vote. All of those things go to the congressmen or senators who are listening, supposed to be listening to you, and they make the changes. They write the laws to make the changes. So we go right to the top. And I've awarded Karen Bass, Maxine Waters, Sweet Alice Harris, all the councilmen, Marquise Harris Dawson, the Shine Awards, which is given to those individuals or entities who've been on the grind trying to make this world a better place, but ain't been getting much shine. See what I'm saying? With our Soul Train identity, we bring attention to whoever we're awarding. You see what I'm saying? It's not just coming from a guy down the block. It's coming from the stars of the longest running show in the history of television. We've now formed a socially conscious group, and it helps as a promotional venture. It's gotten us inside the political structure. So you're going to hear a lot about pickleball and hip hop.
Actually, about
Coming out of the West Coast, I started the first pickleball club, and Lonzo from World Class Wrecking Crew, he got at me. We want to start the first hip hop all-star pickleball club. There's always new areas to venture into. You see what I'm saying? If you're a creator, you see what I'm saying? I'm 72 years old. The other thing besides that I'm the elder statesman of hip hop. I'm older than every hip hop artist in hip hop, including the founders. Kool Herc and all of them are 10 or 12 years younger than them. That's because I made my first record at 30 when they were like 19, 18 in New York. 1981, most of those cats were 18 and 19 years old. I was 30 going on 31.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm the oldest living professional hip hop recording artist in the world.
Nice. Yeah.
Disco Daddy on the West Coast. So yeah, there's still a future, and there's still things that I want to do, and you're going to be hearing about it. Now Jeff will have me back here when my pickleball club blows up.
Yeah. will you be in New York for the 50th anniversary?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
But we're trying to do something here. Okay. And the council members, I asked them, and he turned to me and said, well, this is something you can be involved in. You should handle that. So I'm trying to work on stuff like that right now. So I'd love to come there to be part of it, but we'll see how things work out. Because I like I said, I've met most of the people through interviews that I've done when I had my radio program and on Facebook, and a couple of them have come out here. Everybody that comes out here from New York knows they got safe passage with Disco Daddy. They ain't gonna be shot and killed at no Roscoe's fried chicken or nothing like that. Because I know every place you're supposed to go and how you're supposed to go. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you're rolling with me. So a few of them have come out and tested that. They saw they got here, had a good time, and got home safely. See what I'm saying? So I expect the same respect when I come out here. But I don't know if I'm gonna physically be able to make it because the summer will be sort of busy here too. But I may. So it's up in the air, right?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Facebook, you're familiar with DJ Breakout, which is my OG, and DJ Dr. Dust, which is my OG. Actually, DJ Dr. Dust taught me how to mix.
Dust the mixologist.
Mixologist, that's right.
I interviewed him too.
Yeah.
Okay, I've interviewed him, and I interviewed DXT.
Okay.
Oh,
and he had an interesting take. In fact, some of the brothers that I interviewed had an interesting take on who was the first to use the turntable as an instrument. You know what I'm saying? Because I said, well, I had heard about Grandmaster Flash, but then Dust, the mixologist, was telling me, that he did a lot of things that he never get credit for. And DST said he was the first to actually use the turntable as an instrument. And then when Grandmaster Cass came out here, I asked him, I said, and I interviewed DST, and I want to know from you, because you were there, who was the first to actually use the turntable as an instrument? And all he said, well, I'll tell you this. It's one thing to have something that you invented to use it in your garage, but another thing when you bring it out to people see it. So whoever it was that came out first to the people and made that popular, that's who's getting the credit for that. Although the others still, you know what I'm saying? They're icons. You see what I'm saying? But they among themselves, they said I actually recorded. In fact, I interviewed Chief Rocker Busy B. And he told me that some of the songs that Curtis Blow is credited, he had the hand in writing.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
I heard that.
And not getting credit for. So there's a lot of hidden stories in hip hop that hopefully, if these guys write books, because the New York timeline is really hard to figure out, because they're finding out that because there was no internet, whatever they was doing in Brooklyn, they didn't know what they was doing in the Bronx unless you travel from one park jam to another. And going to New York, I'm from New York, you usually party where you from.
Right.
In the park that's around you. You didn't go out to Brooklyn unless you knew somebody. Friends invited you. So they don't know. Then I heard about DJ Smokey in Brooklyn and other people from Raheem who were doing things before Flash and DJ
Kool Herc?
Bambaataa?
Oh, not Kool Herc, the disco DJ who's dead.
The disco DJ who's
AJ
dead?
the DJ.
Oh, okay.
AJ the DJ. These are guys who were DJs they were disco DJs, just like me, coming in the beginning era of hip hop. You see what I'm saying? But a lot was they were influential at the time from what I heard. You see what I'm saying, and what they were doing. But then naturally one dies, and so you don't hear about Smokey. He died early. You know what I'm saying? But if he's still been living, he probably would have a place in the early History does have a place among those who know. But in the official accounts that I've read so far, you rarely hear anything or read anything about DJ Smokey.
Yeah. It's usually like that. It usually happens like that.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in this evening. Disco Daddy, thank you for joining the conversation. We appreciate you're a true hip hop historian.
Yeah.
Lots of knowledge.
Legend and pioneer.
We'll catch everybody next week on the next episode. Everybody enjoy the rest of their day. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace. I got to get in here to Ralph's Market.